It's midnight and you're tuned into Nightline with me, Muhammed, Ahmad, Hamdan, and here are the top stories. Government assessing developments after Trump's tariffs struck down by US top court. UK government considers removing former Prince Andrew from royal line of succession. Good morning. Malaysia is studying the impact of the US Supreme Court decision following latest legal and trade policy developments in the United States. Investment, Trade and Industry Minister Dr. Sri Johari Ghani said Malaysia had signed a reciprocal trade agreement with the US but had yet to ratify it, and that the government was carefully evaluating the implications of the latest developments. According to previous statements by US authorities, the country still has other legal mechanisms to implement trade measures, including the possibility of imposing unilateral tariffs if it decides to do so. Malaysia is also taking note of President Donald Trump's latest announcement on a temporary 10% tariff, with the scope and implications currently being assessed. At this stage, the government is awaiting further clarification on how the measure will be implemented. The US remains one of the world's largest economies, with a gross domestic product of about 31 trillion US dollars. Total Malaysia-US trade stands at 367 billion ringgit, with exports valued at 233 billion ringgit. Johari stressed that Malaysia's position remains clear and consistent to continue its commitment to open and rules-based trade while ensuring a stable business environment to protect Malaysian exporters and international investors. Malaysia will also continue to diversify its trade relations and strengthen regional economic cooperation. Earlier, Trump announced a 10% global tariff on all imports for 150 days, effective February 24th. This followed the US Supreme Court ruling that his use of emergency powers to impose reciprocal tariffs was unconstitutional. Earlier, Trump slapped an additional 10% tariff on all countries for imports into the United States, which will be effective almost immediately. He announced the decision after US Supreme Court struck down his efforts to impose sweeping global tariffs under a national security law. Following the ruling on Friday, Trump signed the tariff order, which is slated to take effect on February 24th for 150 days. US trading partners that have reached tariff deals with Washington will now also face a 10% duty, despite higher levels they may have agreed on previously. The Trump administration, however, said it would seek ways to implement more appropriate or pre-negotiated tariff rates down the line. Later in a press conference on Friday, Trump criticized the Supreme Court justices who struck down his global tariffs, including two of his own appointees. The president claimed they were swayed by foreign interests and very unpatriotic and disloyal to the American Constitution.
The Supreme Court's ruling on tariffs is deeply disappointing, and I'm ashamed of certain members of the court, absolutely ashamed, for not having the courage to do what's right for our country.
On the other hand, Trump praised the conservative justices who voted to uphold his authority to levy tariffs, thanking the three for their strength, wisdom and love for the country. Meanwhile, the US new tariffs sent shockwaves across the globe, with many countries questioning what could come next. Canada's International Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc said the ruling was unjustified. He explained that the additional tariffs come on top of existing measures causing the most pain in Canada, including sector-specific duties affecting the steel, aluminium and auto industries, which remain in force. The European Union spokesman Olof Gil said the bloc is closely analysing the ruling and remains in close contact with the US administration. Meanwhile, in the United Kingdom, a government spokesman said Britain expects its privileged trading position with the US to continue and will work with the administration to understand how the ruling will affect tariffs for the UK and the rest of the world. The Health Ministry recorded 596 new tuberculosis cases in epidemiological week 6 of 2026 from February 8th to 14th. This brings the national total to 3,161 cases so far, recording an increase from 503 cases reported the previous week. In a statement, the ministry said Sabah recorded the highest cumulative number of cases at 755, followed by Selangor with 596 and Sarawak with 332. Johor recorded 280 cases, while 244 cases were reported in Kuala Lumpur and Putrajaya. Other states also reported an uptick in numbers. Tuberculosis is an airborne infectious disease which can spread when a person with active pulmonary TB coughs, speaks or sneezes. However, the disease does not spread as rapidly as influenza or COVID-19 and usually requires prolonged and repeated exposure. At the same time, the Health Ministry stressed that Ramadan is not a cause of TB transmission. However, increased social activities and gatherings during the month may generally lead to more interaction among the public. The public is advised to practice proper cough and sneeze etiquette, wear a mask in crowded places and seek medical checkups if a cough persists for more than 2 weeks. Commenting on the situation, Health Minister Datuk Seri Dr. Zulkifli Ahmad said TB in Malaysia remained under control with sufficient medication supplies available nationwide. He stressed that there was no need to panic but urged people to step up preventive measures, particularly in crowded settings.
Saya ingin galakkan sekeras-kerasnya yang ada gejala dan berada dalam congestion tempat-tempat yang agak sempit, ya, elakkan conversation, elakkan perbualan yang panjang. Buat TB dia require intense komunikasi. InsyaAllah. Ya, batan kita, wabak kita yang 4 itu semua cukup.
The Health Ministry has reiterated the importance of early detection, preventive measures and public awareness to curb the spread of tuberculosis. Moving on, the flood situation in Sabah has continued to deteriorate with more than 3,000 people affected across 2 districts as at Saturday evening. Sarawak, meanwhile, has become the latest state hit by flooding after water levels began rising in parts of Kuching. In Sabah, floodwaters continued to rise in several areas due to persistent bad weather. The worst-hit district is Pitas, with more than 2,000 evacuees currently housed at 11 temporary relief centres, while in Kota Marudu, more than 1,200 victims have been relocated to 4 evacuation centres. In Kuching, some 70 people from 17 families have been evacuated to a temporary relief centre in Kampung Sungai Maung after their homes were inundated. The flooding followed heavy rainfall overnight, compounded by a high tide phenomenon. In the meantime, all federal and state government agencies have been mobilized to ensure that evacuation and rescue operations are carried out swiftly and effectively. In a Facebook post, Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ahmad Zahid Hamidi said the government's priority is to safeguard the safety and welfare of flood victims while accelerating recovery efforts in flood-affected areas. He also urged residents in flood-hit locations to remain vigilant and to strictly adhere to instructions issued by the authorities. Meanwhile, more than 4,000 officers and staff from the Women, Family and Community Development Ministry have been mobilized nationwide in preparation for potential flooding, with 5,744 volunteers from the Department of Social Welfare also on standby. Its Minister Datuk Seri Nancy Shukri said counselling services are also being provided at every temporary evacuation centre to offer emotional support to flood victims, especially children.
Dan kaunselor ataupun pegawai kaunseling 155 di setiap PPS memang sentiasa ada kaunselor dan juga mereka yang membantu mengisi masa kanak-kanak, ya, aktiviti kanak-kanak.
She said the current priority is to ensure readiness in several key areas, including online registration of victims and the distribution of essential items and food supplies. Attention is also being given to health and hygiene, safety, as well as activities at evacuation centres nationwide. No elements of abuse or bullying have been detected in the death of soldier K. Indiran, who was found unconscious at a military camp in Kuantan, Pahang, where he was attending a course. Defence Minister Datuk Sri Muhammad Khalid Nordin said this was based on the results of the post-mortem examination conducted on Saturday morning. Khalid said a detailed probe into the incident will still be carried out. He did not rule out the possibility of setting up a special committee to investigate the matter if necessary.
Dapat report tapi tak ada unsur penderaan, bully dan sebagainya.
Mungkin ada gerakan konsultasi yang itu.
Itu memang akan kita buat. Jangan dipolitikkan untuk ini. Biarlah dia saja betul. Jangan dipolitikkan.
22-year-old Indiran, who was taking an armour crew course at the 10th Mile Army Camp in Kuantan, was found unconscious on Wednesday and rushed to Tengku Ampuan Afzan Hospital, where he died the next day. Meanwhile, the body of the deceased, accompanied by family members, arrived at the Batu Lancang Hindu burial ground at around 4:15 p.m. Indiran was accorded a military burial before the body was laid to rest beside the grave of his father, the late Major C. Kayambu, an RMAF pilot who died when his plane crashed near the munitions terminal at RMAF Butterworth in Pulau Pinang in 2016. 12 police officers and personnel under investigation over the alleged theft of cryptocurrency assets belonging to a group of Chinese nationals have been taken off active duty. Inspector General of Police Datuk Sri Muhammad Khalid Ismail said those involved have been reassigned to desk duties while investigations are ongoing.
Kita masih lagi dalam siasatan, kita mengambil statement-statement mereka yang berkaitan. Dan berdasarkan itu nanti kita akan ambil tindakan lanjutlah. Buat sementara ini kita tidak beri mereka kepada tugas-tugas aktif lah berada di pejabat bagi memastikan bahawa persiasatan kita dapat dijalankan dengan baik dan sempurna.
He was speaking to reporters after attending a charity contribution event at Yayasan Srinegara and a zakat handover ceremony at the Cheras District Police Headquarters. Earlier, Selangor Police Chief Datuk Shazli Kahar confirmed that 12 officers and personnel had been detained following a report lodged by a complainant on February 6. They are being investigated under Section 395 and Section 397 of the Penal Code for their alleged theft of cryptocurrency from a group of Chinese nationals, resulting in losses of about 200,000 ringgit. Meanwhile, the IGP was also asked to comment on the investigation into the alleged defamation case between MACC Chief Tan Sri Azam Baki and Bloomberg over a report on share ownership.
Pihak kita PDRM sedang menjalankan siasatan. Kita akan mengambil beberapa statement lah daripada pihak-pihak yang berkaitan dan insya-Allah perkembangan ini saya akan update dari masa ke semasa dan kertas siasatan kita akan submit kepada pihak AG dalam masa terdekat insya-Allah.
On Friday, Azam filed a lawsuit against Bloomberg over an article published on February 10th, which he claims contains defamatory allegations on shares he purportedly holds in a financial services company. As the plaintiff, he is seeking 100 million ringgit in general damages, aggravated and exemplary damages, as well as interest and costs. The government will take firmer action to combat the rise of online scams across social media platforms. Communications Minister Datuk Fahmi Fadil said enforcement is being carried out under the Online Safety Act, which came into force on January 1st. He said a regulatory sandbox is currently underway to review and strengthen oversight mechanisms for social media platforms.
Onsa terpakai kepada platform-platform dan sekiranya mereka terus membenarkan kejadian seperti deepfake AI, scam pelaburan dan juga judi dalam talian, maka denda yang besar boleh dikenakan antara 1 juta sehingga 10 juta ringgit.
The minister spoke after attending the Malaysia-Indonesia Arts and Cultural Unity Programme on Saturday. The act is crucial in curbing criminal activities, including the spread of content harmful to children. Fahmi also reminded the public not to be easily swayed by social media scams, promising high returns with minimal capital. At the same event, Fahmi said the government will continue to strengthen the national creative industry ecosystem to ensure local artists and content creators can compete on the international stage. The minister said developing the creative sector remains a key agenda, not only to boost the economy, but also to enhance regional cultural ties. According to Fahmi, the focus goes beyond broadcasting and includes music, animation and film, which are gaining traction internationally, particularly in Indonesia.
Antara produk kebudayaan yang telah berjaya kita ekspor ke Indonesia termasuklah Datuk Seri Siti Nurhaliza, Upin dan Ipin, dan yang terbaru Papa Zola. Jadi saya percaya dengan sokongan.
He added that with support from agencies such as Finas and My Creative Ventures, more Malaysian creative products can expand into Southeast Asia and eventually the global market. The creative industry currently contributes between 6.8 and 7% to Malaysia's gross domestic product. The sector includes music, film, animation, book publishing and various other art forms. Woman remanded after stabbing elderly mother with can opener. This and more after this breather.
When I heard the voice of Hind Rajab for the first time, it had such harrowing, impactful sense of
Wanita penuh tempo, penuh cerita. Inilah Nona, inspirasi bertemu realiti. Setiap warna mempunyai keupayaan membangkitkan pelbagai mood dan emosi. Semoga istirahat anda memberi makna yang indah walau tempohnya hanya seketika. Dan terus setia sejam bersama kami kerana Nona, inspirasi wanita untuk semua. Nona di TV3 dan stream ditonton.
Jangan lupa saksikan resepi serasi. Saya nak cakap kat mak saya tau, saya masak ni.
Yalah.
Tapi kenapa nak letak minyak?
Sambil tu dia masak lagi sekali dalam tu.
Jangan ni. Biar saya buat.
Ya, boleh.
Kadang-kadang kan, kalau awak order dekat kedai kan, macam bau dia macam wangi kan. Bandung gula ni lah. Macam begitu orang tau. Dah siap, sirap bandung gula Melaka.
Siap dah.
Ahad, 3 petang di TV3.
Dan stream juga ditonton.
Welcome back. In Selangor, 7 containers carrying animal products worth nearly 2 million ringgit have been seized at Westport, Port Klang. The seizure was made by the Malaysian Border Control and Protection Agency, or MCBA, during an operation on Friday. Port Klang MCBA Commander Datuk Nikezani Muhammad Faisal said the goods were believed to have been brought in without a valid import permit from the Malaysian Quarantine and Inspection Services Department. The products originating from New Zealand and Ireland were seized to prevent the risk of disease and ensure food safety. In a separate case, MCBA also detected 2 containers filled with electronic waste, estimated to weigh 37,000 kilograms. In Negeri Sembilan, a woman in her 50s has been remanded for 7 days for allegedly stabbing her elderly mother with a can opener. Kuala Pilah Police Chief Muhammad Mustafa Hussein said the suspect is currently being held under police guard at Hospital Tuanku Ampuan Najihah after doctors advised that the suspect be warded for further medical observation. The incident is reported to have occurred on Friday night in Kampung Segine, where the suspect, who is also believed to have mental health issues, allegedly attacked her mother, who is in her 80s. Police said they received a call from a member of the public reporting a disturbance at a house in the village. The victim was later taken to Hospital Rembau for further treatment and is reported to be in stable condition under hospital observation. Police said investigations into the motive are ongoing, with the case being investigated under Section 326 of the Penal Code. In Sabah, 14 semi-permanent houses were gutted in a fire at Kampung Melangkap Kapar in Kota Belud on Saturday. 10 of the houses were completely destroyed, while 4 others suffered severe damage. Kota Belud Fire and Rescue Station Chief LG Bakuk said the department received an emergency call at 10:57 a.m. 7 firefighters, along with 2 volunteer firemen from Pangkalan Abai, were deployed to the scene. The fire engines, however, were unable to reach the location due to narrow access roads and an unstable bridge. As a result, firefighters had to draw water from a nearby river to conduct fire suppression operations. The fire was brought under control at around noon. No casualties were reported. 12 dead in Israeli strikes on Lebanon. The details when Nightline returns.
Macam mana Aira boleh terfikir dan Aira nak serahkan abang pada orang lain?
Aku tak nak kawan dengan kau. Sebab kau tadi... Sebab kau tadi...
Dah cakap apa ni?
Yes.
Aduh, sakit.
Sampai hati kau.
Oh, tak nak kawan dengan abang sebab tak ada tonton ke?
Yelah, kan RM9.90 je. Sekarang barulah boleh kahwin. Kawan.
Amboi, banyak cantik muka Han nak bermakeup pula kat sini. Jom ikut Mami pergi masak. Kita ni minggu depan dah nak puasa. Sekejapnya, bang. Chef kecil. Kecil ke dia? Kecil besar aku nampak Hang Aisyah. Bertepung lagi bulu mata aku, Aisyah.
23.5.
Memang kena ukur betul-betul?
Kena ukur lah.
Tak boleh buat lama-lama, melingkup pula belakang. Sabar. Mami, relax. This is my show. Aisyah buat semua.
Dua tiga kucing melari, manakan sama si cinta hati.
2-3 boleh ku beri agar keberkatan menyatukan hati.
Sama-sama Ramadan,
sama-sama berkat di TV3.
Welcome back. Onto the foreign front. The British government is considering legislation to remove disgraced former Prince Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor from the royal line of succession following revelations of his alleged ties with the late US sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Police have stepped up investigations into his conduct, questioning the royal's former protection officers. The current monarch, King Charles III, has stripped his younger brother of all titles. Mountbatten-Windsor, however, remains 8th in line to the throne. The former royal was arrested on Thursday at his home on the Sandringham estate on suspicion of misconduct in public office. Public outrage has grown in recent months over reports of Mountbatten-Windsor's close ties to Epstein and his alleged sharing of confidential information during his tenure as a UK trade envoy from 2001 to 2011. At least 12 people were killed in Israeli attacks across Lebanon on Friday, with the strikes reportedly aimed at the group Hezbollah and its Palestinian ally Hamas. The assault struck several locations in the Bekaa Valley and southern Lebanon, as the military said it targeted command centers belonging to Hezbollah and Hamas. Hezbollah confirmed that one of its commanders was killed in the strike. At least 2 others were killed in an Israeli strike on the Ain al-Hilweh camp, the country's largest Palestinian refugee camp near the southern city of Sidon. Hamas condemned the attack, saying it caused civilian casualties. The strikes mark the latest breach of a 2024 ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hezbollah. A deadly virus and bacterial infection have killed at least 72 tigers at a private animal park in northern Thailand in recent weeks. The Provincial Livestock Office in Chiang Mai said on Friday that tests detected the highly contagious canine distemper virus, along with bacteria affecting the respiratory system. A report by Protected Area Regional Office 16 showed that 72 tigers died at 2 facilities between February 8th and 19th, 21 at the Mai Rim site and 51 at the Mai Tang site. Following the incident, the remaining live tigers were relocated for quarantine and care at a nursing center in Mai Tang district. And this just in, US President Donald Trump said he's raising the worldwide tariffs on goods entering the United States from 10% to 15%, effective immediately. Trump said on his Truth Social platform that after a thorough review of Friday's extraordinarily anti-American decision by the court to rein in his tariff program, the administration was hiking the import levies to the fully allowed and legally tested 15% level. And turning to sports now, Muay Thai, the One Championship. Rising star Muhammed kicked off his atomweight debut at the One Friday Fight 143 with an impressive victory in Bangkok, Thailand on Friday. In his first fight, 20-year-old Rizwan faced 16-year-old Japanese fighter Riku Ito. Representing the Ilamgari Muay Thai team from Kelantan, Rizwan was tested throughout the 3 rounds. Despite this, he controlled much of the action in the Lumpini arena, dominating 67% of the ring compared to Ito's 33%. The judges unanimously awarded the win to Rizwan through a majority decision. Following his debut in the One Championship, Rizwan now joins a growing list of Malaysian stars in the promotion, including Rifdin Masdo, Kabilan Jelivan and Johan Ghazali. On to squash, the 2026 Cincinnati Gaynor Cup. National women's player Rachel Arnold saw her semi-final hopes end after losing to England's top seed Georgina Kennedy on Saturday. At the Cincinnati Country Club, world number 24 Rachel suffered a straight sets defeat, losing 5-11, 4-11, 4-11 in just 24 minutes. This marks her 3rd consecutive loss to Kennedy, their previous meeting being at the Silicon Valley Open in October. The result also means that no Malaysian players have advanced to the semi-finals, with Rachel remaining the only national representative to reach the quarter-finals. Ramadan, the holy month of fasting, is observed by Muslims worldwide as a time for worship and spiritual reflection. One tradition that remains strong is breaking the fast together. In Yemen, Muslims bring homemade dishes to a mosque to break their fast, keeping a generations-old tradition alive. The visuals wrap up this edition of Nightline. I'm Muhammed. I'm Hamdan. Thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your weekend.